go ahead and call the meeting to order. Ms. Barber, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Vinch,
Here.
Mr. Bracken,
Here.
Ms. Franklin,
Here.
Ms. French,
Here.
Ms. Ornelas,
Here.
Mr. Snavely,
Yes, I'm here.
Mayor Smith.
Here. We will now do the Pledge of Allegiance if you would like to join us. All right, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor French, second by Councilor Ornelas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We will move straight into public participation, and tonight we have a report from Ms. Emily Lakety from the Oxford Senior Center.
Hello, City Council. Thank you so much for giving me this time to share what we've been up to. Oh, no, giving away all the stuff. So Oxford Seniors, we have been in existence since 1953, in our current facility since 1982. Our mission is supporting seniors and strengthening community. So I'm going to share some updates. The city budget is kind enough to give us financial support every year, so I'm going to focus on the programs that we do get that support from the city for, and then I'm also going to talk about some other things that have been going on. It has been a great year. So first of all, the big news, the thing that we are incredibly excited about is finally, the last thing I said last time I presented to City Council almost exactly a year ago was we're going to get these vehicles. So things can move slowly. Governments can shut down more than once, but yes, just a few weeks ago, we finally got 2 new fully accessible vehicles funded not only by federal transportation funds, but also by a number of community organizations and donors. So I think a few of you came to that event. We had a lot of people here to celebrate. One of them is a 2026 modified minivan with a rear entry ramp. And the other one is a modified Ford van with an electric wheelchair lift. We had a ton of people there to celebrate. The salesman was there, and he looked at me and he said, I have never seen anything like this in all my years of selling these vehicles. And I said, well, then you're doing it wrong. I said, every single person here has contributed to making this happen, and also we might help them or a loved one with these vehicles. So we are delighted to have them. Right there is my lead driver, Chris, in the scrubs, and our newest driver, Jack. So those are some of the faces. I have a bunch of other drivers, but those are some of the faces you're going to see if you need our help to get to a physical therapy appointment or a haircut. Since last year, and all of my numbers are going to be essentially since I last presented, we have given 230 people rides 6,869 times. And for the first time this year, we've been able to do some kind of non-senior events. We've gotten a phone call from Parks and Rec that said, hey, can you help this summer camp thing happen a little bit? We had a last minute change. Yes, we can. So we had, actually Jack was our driver for that, and I don't know how many kids we brought, but how many? 50, okay, 50 kids to a field trip at Miami. And then we're really excited because when the Ukrainian delegation comes, we are going to be providing transportation for that also. And one of the things I really love about what we're doing for the Ukrainian delegation, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this idea later in the presentation, but I have volunteer drivers, members who are certified, who are going to do that driving. One of them is a retired naval officer. The other one is in the process of getting his U.S. citizenship. He has immigrated here from Canada. And so I love how my members have this wealth of experience, this huge, deep background, and then we get to share that with the rest of the community. So, outreach. This is another program that we get support from the city for. So, outreach support includes lots and lots of different things. Everything from helping people when they're nearing retirement age, go through that whole process, helping them pick the correct Medicare plan when they retire. Also, you call me up and you say, oh gosh, Emily, I live in Alaska and my mom has been picked up off the floor in Oxford 3 times this week. Can you help me? Yes, we can. Our outreach helps you connect to the right resources to keep the police department and the fire department away from your parents' door. So in the past year, we have provided that type of support to 984 people. During the open enrollment period, which is just October 15th through December 7th, Sabrina Jewell is our primary outreach person. She is a certified OSHIP counselor, and she provided counseling to 401 people, which is over 100 more people than in previous open enrollment periods, and saved them $385,000 in co-pays, in health insurance premiums, and she was also named OSHIP Coordinator of the Year for the state of Ohio, which is awesome. We were also able to pair with the Ohio Department of Insurance to do some new to Medicare, new to open enrollment presentations that were open to the entire greater Oxford community. We don't check IDs at the door, anyone's allowed to come in. So she's going to be starting doing this work again. Open enrollment starts, like I said, October 15th. If you have Medicare, you should check every year. You can sit down with Sabrina. She'll give you however much time you need, an hour, 2 hours, whatever, and it is free. I also want to mention, as part of our outreach work, we last year had our very first Oxford Seniors Health Fair. We filled our great room with different service providers, older adult services in the area. We will be doing that again October 16th. I think we had around 200 people come through and around, I think, 20 different providers. So we invite us, mark that on your calendar. It's open to everyone. We have snacks. And you'll get a lot of resources about, what you need to age vibrantly and gracefully. We also get funding for our programs and activities. This is a quick list of our reoccurring programs and activities. These are things that we offer typically once a week, but definitely once a month. We also have lots and lots of things added on every month, every week. So in a general week, we have 25 different activities that are offered every week. Since my last presentation, we have had 1,276 people be active in our center. Now that includes people who come 5 days a week. That includes people who come for a one-off book discussion or something. On average, 51 people attend events in our facility every day. So 51 people are walking through the doors to our facility. And when you look at the work we do, when you look at meals, when you look at programs, when you look at meeting with our staff to get advice and recommendations, over 15,000 times that has happened since I last spoke to you all. So that might, again, be one person doing it 300 times plus one person doing it twice, but a total of 15,000 times. Meals on Wheels and congregate lunch. First of all, I want to highlight the ladies in the photo. That is Mary Ann and Candy. They are long-term congregate volunteers. They are wonderful, and they make their congregate lunch day so lovely and so special. Also, we depend on volunteers. All of our congregate lunches are served by volunteers, and all of our Meals on Wheels are delivered by volunteers. We are one of the few Meals on Wheels providers in the area, actually I think the only one in the area, that provides daily hot meals. They're prepared for us at McCullough Hyde. We then have volunteers go out and deliver them. 5 days a week, we will bring you a hot meal, and then on the weekend, we provide Friday 2 frozen meals for the weekend. We also check, and I also warn people. I say, hey, if you don't answer this door, we're gonna keep knocking, and we're gonna try the back door, and we're gonna peer in the windows, and then they're gonna call me, and then I'm gonna call Chief Jones, and then we are gonna do a well check. So let us know when you're getting your hair cut right around noon, because we expect to see you. So since this time last year, Meals on Wheels, we have delivered 12,819 meals to 115 clients. And then at the center, our Monday through Friday daily lunch, 2,137 meals. I also want to mention that the congregate meals at the center and our Meals on Wheels, those are donation-based. You can put money in the pot or not. We don't check pockets. We just want you to be fed, checked on, and part of our community. Also, and maybe I shouldn't share this because I love my Talawanda people, my 13-year-old says our lunches are better than school food. This says Community Adult Day Service, in case you're wondering where that Y went. So our Community Adult Day Service is one of the few in the county. I just saw that one that is in the county has just recently closed. We are based in the Faith Lutheran Church. We have been part of that Faith Lutheran community for 25 years, which we're incredibly grateful for. They consider us part of their mission, and it's wonderful. So our Community Adult Day service is a Monday through Friday day program for people who have age-related cognitive or physical impairments. They all live at home. They might have family members who need to work. Their caregivers have full-time jobs and don't want to leave them home alone because it's not safe, because it's isolating. We will go pick them up and bring them to our day service. So since last year, we have provided 1,327 days of support and interaction and safety to 24 clients and their families. We have clients who come 5 days a week, and we have clients who come half a day once a week. But we know we are helping them be safe, be socialized, have a great time, and we also know that we are allowing their families and their caregivers peace of mind and the ability to keep working or take care of themselves, have a doctor's appointment. So we really feel like this program supports the entire family. And you can see here, we love to go on field trips. Up in the right-hand corner, that's the whole crew at the Houston Woods Nature Center. And then we also do a lot of group programming. We're trying to kind of connect our membership and our adult day service clients once a month. So we had like a Mother's Day event where our crew went over to the adult day service. And last Monday, the adult day service crew came to the senior center. We ate tacos. And then the Miami football team showed up, and we beat a number of them at Domino's. So it was an excellent time, a great time had by all. But the thing I really wanted to highlight in this, when I was first hired and was first talking to the membership at Oxford Seniors, I had a woman, a strongly opinioned, loud, large-voiced woman, say to me, she said, "You need to let people know that we're just not pitiful old people who need help. We have a lot that we can do for other people." And that really stuck with me. And she was completely right. And she has given me much feedback over my 3 years there, which I am grateful for. So I wanted to talk about the partnerships we have had in the past year, because we're not just serving people who live in the city of Oxford who are 50 and older. We are serving the entire greater Oxford community. So I reached out to the Butler County Health Department. They bring me free COVID tests. We distribute them to the community for free. We distributed 300 free COVID tests last year. It's still a need, it's still a worry. The VA reached out, we connected with them. There has been an increase in veteran suicide in Butler County. It's one of the two demographics that there has been an increase. We have now distributed 75 free gun locks at our events, just making sure that those means to stop lethality are in people's hands. We partner with AARP to do free low-income tax preparation. It's all done by volunteers. They are trained by AARP. Last year, we did 259 free tax returns. And that's for all ages. You just have to be low income. I did have to turn one person away because they had over $1 million in the bank. And I said, that doesn't count. That does not count. We are also now partnering with Best Point Behavioral Health, which has taken over Butler Behavioral Health. We are providing a bi-monthly emotional support group at the center. It happens on Fridays at 11, and it's just an opportunity for people to connect, communicate, share what's going on in their lives, and if there's need for further involvement, it's presented by Best Point Social Works, and we can then follow through to get them more support. We also partner with Nancy Parkinson's and all these people and churches and community groups to do a Monday night meal, a free community meal every Monday night during this Miami semester. We do programming, we do free meals on those nights, and typically we serve 200 free meals, which is really exciting. You dine in or you can pick it up to go, and it's always really great food. I forget it's the second Monday of the month, and I forget what our menu is coming up. I should remember, but we'll see. We also, last year, the Ohio Department of Aging has to do a regular survey to see what their budget priorities should be, what their programming priorities should be. They reached out to us and they said, we haven't talked to anyone in a rural community. Can we have a town hall? Yeah, we can. So we hosted a community town hall. We were one of the few rural communities that got to have input, face-to-face input on the decisions that the Ohio Department of Aging are going to be making for the next 5-10 years. A lot of people showed up, a lot of people spoke truth to power, and it was really awesome. I think it's really important that as a senior center, we allow the entire community to have that kind of state-level feedback. And then we've also been partnering with different organizations to offer screenings to the whole community. We recently had the Cincinnati Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired come and offer free vision screenings to everyone in the community. So I think we had around 20 people who came for that, some older adults, some young people, and we'll be doing that again in the coming year. We also, Rock Steady Boxing is an evidence-based program that meets here in Oxford that helps people with Parkinson's disease. It had been administrated and hosted by McCullough Hyde Foundation. They were not able to do that anymore. They reached out to us and said, hey, can you take that over? Yes, we can. So we are now doing the administrative side of that, signing the contracts, processing the money, doing all of that, supporting the instructors. They typically have between 15 and 20 people in the class. It meets 3 times a week and is clinically shown to improve Parkinson's symptoms. So that is very exciting. We also often partner with the city, especially about energy bills. So we have had people come in and talk about, Rena comes in and talks about every year the aggregation program, people freak out, she comes and explains it. And every time someone comes and freaks out to me, I say, I'm gonna call Rena, because I know, but I don't know. We also have people bring in their electric bills, and Rena will go through them with them and make sure that they have the right support, they're on the right plan. We also connected with the energy audits that were happening. A lot of our members got to have student interns come into their home, see where they were losing heat and where they were wasting energy, put weather stripping and all that kind of stuff. So we love that partnership. And then my last two I really love, Oxford Winter House, our adult day service clients. Some of them you would never know have an age-related impairment. Some of them no longer have language. We have a real range of cognition in that facility, or in that program. They made lunch for the Oxford Winter House. The staff worked with them and they put together peanut butter and jelly sack lunches for all the guests at the Oxford Winter House. And it was great. That was a beautiful thing that these people really loved doing. And then we also, we have a knitting and crochet group. We are extending that to other thread and yarn-based activities in the coming year, so embroidery people, get ready. They made handmade hats and gloves that were distributed to all 3 elementary schools so that kids who needed that had stuff that was made with love for them. We also hosted a lot of people in our building because it's a city building, it's a community space. We need the community in the building. League of Women Voters, we hosted their 2025 candidate forum. The Cub Scouts started meeting at our building regularly. They needed a place they had a little hiccup, so they needed a place, so we welcomed them in. With that connection, we then also connected with the Boy Scouts. So for the, I believe, 3 snowstorms where people had to clean sidewalks if they were on snow routes, we connected Boy Scouts with low-income seniors who owned their home and lived on a snow route, and the Boy Scouts went out there and they shoveled, and it was awesome. It became a little bit of a competition. I had to tell some people, the Boy Scouts are coming, sir, please get back in your house. They will come. I know you can shovel it, but these boys need something to do. So that was wonderful. We also partnered with Coalition for a Healthy Community and Age-Friendly Oxford to have BCRTA come out, bring one of their big buses, because we want people to be using buses, but a lot of people have never got on a bus, and it's scary, and it's weird, and it makes a funny noise when the door opens. So we had a presentation from BCRTA, then we got on their big bus, it made a funny noise, everyone jumped back, I said, don't worry, get in, and then we headed uptown and had an intergenerational dinner at Fiesta Chara. We also hosted Oxford Audubon Society, their monthly meetings. You guys, I gave everybody a flyer for our intergenerational game nights. We partner with Age Friendly Oxford to host monthly intergenerational game nights. Our youngest gamer has been 4. Our oldest gamer is 91. Dominoes, really, really complicated strategy games, weird card games, whatever you like. We provide every game you can imagine, and there are snacks. So we invite everyone to come. If you have an annoying child, bring them. We'll pair them with someone who's not so annoying. That's what I do with mine. And then continuing our partnerships, we were able to connect with the Butler County Fair this year. We provided transportation for seniors in Oxford to the fair on Wednesday, which is senior day at the fair, and seniors get in free. And then we also had a senior social, a dance. We had a Bakerama, and I'll show you some pictures of some of our winners. It was a really, really great day. It was also a day where our members could connect with staff and family that were at the fair. We also took part in the Butler County Suicide Prevention Coalition Joy Conference, which was a lot of fun. And then if you guys know me, you know that I will show up with my info table for anything. Birthday parties, 90th birthday, whatever. So we are so delighted that we have been a part of Fresh Air Fair, Back to School Bash. I got out before the rain on Sunday, don't worry. All the Red Brick Fridays, I did not miss the rain for the most recent Red Brick Friday. Oktoberfest, Farm and Flea, and the Bee Fest. Bee Fest is not on there. And I wanted to highlight a lot of that because I am so grateful to the city, to Seth and his crew, to Kim Daggy and the Enjoy Oxford crew for giving us those opportunities, and your crew, Chad, for giving us those opportunities to get out there and connect with the public. If these activities didn't happen, we would be hiding in our building, which is no fun. Part of our partnership, we did a lot of events during Older Americans Month, which led to us in conjunction with Age Friendly Oxford getting the PUSH Award this year from the Coalition for a Healthy Community, which we're very proud of, as you can tell in our big smiles in that picture. So this is some of the stuff we've been up to. I was told I can use the laser pointer. Yes, this is our tent for Oktoberfest, and our Beer Academy will be doing that again this year. We're delighted that the levy passed. Those are 2 board members, Jessica and Kate, holding our levy signs. It's been awesome to have this increased ability to support our older adults. This one over here is our members. You're saying, what are they dressed as? It's Halloween. And way down here in the corner are our preschool kids who came and trick-or-treated with us, which was a lot of fun. This is our line dancing crew. We do take the trip to the casino a couple times a year. This is the crew on the BCRTA bus, and that was open to the entire community. And this is one of our most popular recent field trips. We took 40 people to the hitching post. Why not? We can do that in the middle of the day. So that's what I had to share. I wanted to say a few thank yous. First of all, we have Amber Franklin as a board member. I have Sante Mateo back here who's a board member. Have I missed any board members back here? All right, those are board members. We're deeply appreciative of all of them. We're deeply appreciative of our partnership with the city and lots of other community organizations. I see a lot of members, Oxford Senior members in the room. I see a lot of Oxford Seniors donors. We could not do this without the incredible, amazing community that Oxford is. And it helps us create Oxford as a place where people want to age and have vibrant, joyful aging. Thank you all.
Yay, thank you, Emily. Any questions? That was fantastic.
I just want to say thank you for your leadership. The organization's lucky to have you, and as a board, we enjoy working with you, so thank you.
Thank you. I have the best job on earth. I just show up. Everyone else is awesome, and I smile.
All right, we're going to move on to public comments. Anyone wishing to address council about items that are not on the agenda or on the consent agenda, please come forward at this time, state your name and address for the record. We will give you 5 minutes. At 4 minutes, the vice mayor will ring the bell to warn you you have a minute remaining. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alan Winkler. I'm a 40-year resident of Oxford, taught at Miami for 30 years. And in the course of the last dozen years or so of my retirement, I've become increasingly involved with the Oxford Community Arts Center. I've done programs there. I sit on the board. I'm working with our now fundraising campaign. As you know, because you've been very supportive of us, we're in an old building. It desperately needs renovation. And we're in the midst of a $10 million campaign to rehabilitate that building. Part of that campaign involves tax credits, both state and federal tax credits. We have been approved for tax credits by the state of Ohio. We have been told that. We have been given $100,000 from the state of Ohio already. But what we need to do is to revise the lease with Miami University, because that is a requirement to be eligible for any tax credits at all. And we're talking now about $3.5 million. Miami's Board of Trustees turned us down in their June meeting. We had met with David Kramer, the Vice President for Business Affairs at the university, who was supportive. We met with their attorneys. Our lease was revised 2 years ago, modestly, that increased the number of years that we were eligible for it. It was not a major kind of change, but the board seemed to feel that they had done enough with that change and didn't choose to do anything more. We are approaching the board again in their September meeting, asking for revisiting that decision, and we will make comments during the public comment area unless we're given other time during their meeting. But I'm here simply to request a statement from you, the council, supportive of the Community Arts Center, of our effort, and of our effort to change the lease. We have been involved with the state. We have talked to the officials who are there. We put them in touch with Dr. Kramer, and apparently a good discussion was held a couple of weeks ago. Now we're hoping the board can be persuaded simply to give us the chance to move ahead. So our request again is for you to provide a statement that I can give to the board when we make that presentation in September. That's all we're asking for right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Al.
Hello, I'm Trisha. I'm the chair of the PCRC. I would like to let you know what happened on our August 6th meeting.
Tricia, we're going to discuss this later. If you wanted
Okay.
to save that till we got
That
to
is
the,
totally fine.
that'd be
Thanks.
great. Thank you.
Good evening, council. My name is Dr. Woods Hayes, and I'm here tonight as a citizen and parent in Oxford. In addition to my academic research on the intersections of AI and society, I've spent the last several days going through the public record on flock safety, and I want to walk you through what
We're gonna discuss this in a couple minutes.
it's not for public comment.
Not for-
You can
There'll be,
have public comment
there'll be
then.
public
Okay,
comments
thank you.
on the issue. Thank you.
Ann Fuhr, I live on Dana Drive in Southern Knolls. My comment emphasizes the important role that city commissions play in decision-making by staff and city council. and is not specific to flock cameras at all. I do thank PCRRC for slowing down the decision-making process of City Council to provide opportunity for public education and input about the city's contract with Flock, including comments that, as we see, will be made tonight. In February of 2024, when City Council passed a resolution to enter into a contract with Flock, ostensibly another simple equipment request, and even on June 16th of this year, as Chief Jones was making a presentation to Council, we likely did not anticipate this moment. I serve in leadership roles for two of the organizations that were instrumental in formation of PCRRC, the local NAACP and Oxford Citizens for Peace and Justice, organizations committed to justice and the well-being of our neighbors. City commissions serve an important bridging role between local elected decision makers and constituents in this effort. PCRRC Chair Tricia Hillman and I serve together on the exec committee of the local NAACP. We know the important role that community conversations play after incidents like the one that occurred several years ago when, ironically, a camera's video showcased a police encounter with a Black Miami student. Different perspectives on the reasonable use of force were aired, and standards on qualified immunity were questioned. I serve on another of the city's commissions, the Housing Advisory Commission. Our agendas include addressing issues that contribute to the lack of affordable housing in Oxford and finding ways to prevent evictions. At any time, dozens of people in our community are unhoused, and more than half of the renters in Oxford are financially burdened by costs of housing. Once a renter is evicted, it is difficult to rent again in the area and easy to become unhoused. Being housing burdened is a timely issue. I've learned that a monthly rent in the Miami Mobile Home Park was recently raised $100 a month in comparison to the $50 a month increase in recent years. Under Ohio Revised Code, the state forbids local jurisdictions from placing caps on rent increases or implementing any form of local rent control. Hence the need for creative thinking on the part of governing groups. Members of the board of Oxford Area's Solutions for Housing are deeply concerned about the impact of such increases on residents who already struggle to meet basic survival needs. We understand that many costs of rental property ownership and management have increased significantly, in part because of the cruel actions of our national government. Dynamics and incidents outside of Oxford affect our challenges here, whether we are talking about flock cameras or rent increases or housing of ICE detainees in our county jail. As a member of Butler County Immigrant Justice, I make comments similar to this one to the Butler County Commissioners. I suggest an agenda item for PCRRC for the future, which I believe would also be of interest to the Housing Advisory Commission. We could sponsor public education conversations, perhaps with the new local nonprofit Sheltering Oxford, to promote development of emergency sheltering in Oxford so that Ashley Sleeman, Social Services Liaison for OPD, has more options locally for the people she encounters who are unhoused and vulnerable to criminalization, but who don't want to or can't leave their support systems in Oxford. Let's be proactive in addressing the systemic barriers to the development of sheltering or affordable rentals, including NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Is there anyone else who would like to address council about items not on the agenda? All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor French. Was that Mr. Snavely? Second by Mr. Snavely. Are there any items to be removed? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now, we will move on to resolutions. So, Ms. Barber, you may read the first resolution.
A resolution maintaining the Flock Group Incorporated agreement with amendments to procedures.
Motion to adopt,
So moved.
moved by Vice Mayor French,
Second.
second by Councilor Vinch. And I will go to Assistant City Manager Green.
Yes, my computer's choosing this moment to decide to reload the screen, so hold on just a minute. Do the paper, thank you. Technology at times. Right, good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. City Council directed the city manager to prepare for consideration a resolution to terminate the agreement with Flock Group Incorporated. It was later decided to refer this matter to the Police Community Relations and Review Commission for a recommendation. The PCRRC met on August 6th to discuss the Flock camera agreement. Several members of the public were in attendance and shared concerns. The PCRRC voted 5-1 on a motion to recommend to City Council to maintain the contract with Flock and to enact the following recommendations. Turn on the Flock transparency portal, reduce our sharing network to our county and our adjacent counties, additional training for users of Flock, track cases solved with assistance from Flock, have monthly audits by the police command staff that are then reviewed by the PCRRC, utilize the audit assistance tool in the Flock platform, and only specific users can do a search in Flock to assist other law enforcement agencies who call for an inquiry. I've invited the chairperson of the PCRRC, Latricia Hillman, to share their comments as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions, as well as Chief Jones.
All right, now, Latricia, come on up.
Again. So, good evening, the mayor and the city, members of the city council. On August 6th, the Police Community Relations and Review Commission met to learn more about Oxford's automated license plate recognition, or the ALPR system, and the use of the Flock safety software. We heard from Chief Jones, reviewed information about how the system is being used, and then heard public comments and concerns. Following that discussion, PCRRC voted 5-1 to support the continuing use of the ALPRs under the Flock software. But the support comes with several recommendations that Jessica earlier mentioned that we believe are important to protect the public and maintaining the trust. One that was not mentioned, but it was very much really discussed, and I want to add here, is that the city attorneys review the small print of the Flock contract and any related agreements to ensure the language adequately protects the city and the data collected through the system. We understand that, we want to understand exactly how our data is being stored, accessed, shared, and then used. These recommendations were intended to create a balance. PCRC recognizes that the ALPR technology can be a useful investigation tool, and at the same time, we believe that any technology that collects and shares information about where people's vehicles are located requires strong policies, transparency, training, and meaningful oversight. Our vote was not a blanket endorsement of the Flock software. It was a recommendation to continue using the technology with stronger safeguards, accountability measures. We ask that the City Council consider these recommendations if the city continues to use ALPRs and the Flock technology. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions that I can answer?
Not yet.
All right.
Yeah. All right, before I open this up to public comment, I'm just going to remind everybody to please state your name and address for the record. We will give you 5 minutes. After 4 minutes, we will,
I'm going to ring the bell when you are at 5 minutes.
Okay.
So then just wrap it up quickly.
okay. Now, we've kind of decided administratively that if this resolution does not pass tonight, rather than try to do some kind of amended resolution, that we will come back with a more formal vote to end our flock cameras on September 8th. So I just want to state that. So now, anyone wishing to address council about this resolution, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
All right, thank you. Sorry for jumping the gun earlier.
It's all right?
My name is Dr. Woods Hayes. I live at 614 South Locust Street, apartment 49. I am a researcher at the intersection of AI and social systems, and that's why I came here tonight, but I'm also a concerned citizen and parent. It's important to understand that Flock is not just a camera. The camera is not the issue. At issue is the nationwide database of roughly 80,000 cameras. The technology logs the make, model, color, bumper stickers, and even scratches on every vehicle that passes, and that data becomes available and searchable by any law enforcement agency with a Flock contract, with very little oversight on how it's used afterwards. That means the commute, the doctor's visit, the church parking lot, the ex-partner's street, it's all logged for every driver, regardless of suspicion. Cities have passed their own rules, such as those you've heard tonight, restricting how this data gets shared, and it has not mattered. Flock's national lookup tool has been verified as being used by federal entities, often without the knowledge of local officials. No local guardrail keeps this data inside city limits once it's in the network. That's not a hypothetical risk this council can work around, because it's the architecture of the product. The accuracy record is worse than the marketing suggests. In New Mexico, for example, police held drivers at gunpoint after Flock's system misread their plates and tagged them as violent suspects. In Ohio, here, a man is suing Flock after their system wrongly identified him as a human trafficking suspect. This is a tool sold on precision, and it is producing false positives with very real consequences for Ohio citizens. The legal ground is even shakier than officials claim as well. A federal judge in Norfolk allowed a lawsuit to proceed, arguing that persistent warrantless tracking of ordinary residents violates both the US and Virginia constitutions. The ACLU has filed a Fourth Circuit brief making the very same argument nationally. I'll grant that there are some real success stories, but no isolated recovery or arrest justifies a system that tracks every resident's movements indefinitely, with no local control over who searches it. I know cameras are already installed, and that's exactly why I'm asking you to end the contract, not amend it. Every month this system stays live, more of our residents' movements get added to a database this council does not control and cannot claw back. There is no version of tightening the terms that changes what the network does with the data once it's in. A growing number of cities across the country have reached the same conclusion and pulled out of their Flock contracts entirely, not renegotiated them. My ask tonight is direct. Terminate this contract and remove the cameras. Not because Flock has never helped solve a case, but because the cost of staying in that network outweighs any case it might help solve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. Lisa Bialis, Oxford. Regarding Courtney Terlecki's statement in the Oxford Free Press about Flock, and I quote, "In June alone, Flock has alerted to more than 600 sex offenders," end quote. Law enforcement agencies do admit that a large number of daily camera hits nationwide are flagged as sex offenders, a flag that they admit to ignoring. In fact, 795,000 individuals are registered sex offenders. 95% of them are white men. We're not going after sex offenders in this country. Sex offenders are living and working among us. Terlecki also said Flock has never had a data breach. Well, I know for a fact that a 15-year-old child right here in our community has hacked into the Flock system to track a friend. And there are thousands of cases nationwide of rogue police officers using the flock system to track and stalk their wives, ex-wives, girlfriends, ex-girlfriends, and romantic partners. Honorable Police Chief John Jones stated in the Free Press, and I quote, that the Oxford Police Department has applied a filter to prevent searches for immigration enforcement and reproductive care. I suppose that's a kind of reproductive care that tracked a Texas woman using over 83,000 flock cameras nationwide, a woman who was seeking basic health care because she was carrying a non-viable dead baby and could not get the life-saving health care she needed to live another day. Chief Jones also says that flock cameras don't track names of vehicle owners. However, we all know our license plates are attached to our name, address, city, state, zip, and phone number. Chief Jones says the flock does not share data and the Oxford PD owns the data. He has a recommendation. Limit sharing to only Butler and surrounding counties. Well, this sounds great. Here's a fun fact. Even when direct sharing was disabled, the University of Washington Center for Human Rights found in a system audit they had multiple cases where federal agencies, plural, hacked into their networks without consent. That's a federal agency hacking in and tracking a human rights organization. Chief Jones says the 2 Condor cameras at the corner of High and Main and at the dog park on Bonham Road are, and I quote, typical security cameras that are found in businesses. That sounds benign enough, however, they are flock Condor cameras that pan, tilt, and zoom automatically. These flock Condor cameras have advanced AI technology that tracks human movements, zooms in on faces, and identifies people. I mean, we need to face it. The flock company is lying to us and to the people of this nation. Flock is being used as an inhumane political tool to track respectable citizens, to track upstanding immigrant neighbors, to track people of color, to track women and girls. Your entire lives, our entire lives, are being tracked in a hackable, traceable, unsecure system in 30-day increments, 24/7, 365. I don't think we want that. I'm speaking up tonight for the majority of us, your constituents. The majority who are working 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet and are too exhausted to make a city council meeting. We, the majority, are asking you to please end the cruel business of flock surveillance in Oxford. Thank you very much. I'm grateful for your time.
Ms. Bialis? Ms. Bialis, can we get your address, please?
Oh, 6317 Buckley Road, Oxford.
Thank you.
All right, Timothy Ritzy, 6563 Still Beckett, Oxford. I've been living here for 10 years and
Can you speak into the mic, please?
oh, sorry, this one's for you. I don't think I've ever been more proud to be part of this community than just after the last 2 people spoke. Thank you, it was really well done. All right, good evening, members of the council. I am here to challenge this council's upcoming action on the flock safety camera grid. Budgets and force multipliers are incredibly petty arguments compared to what is at stake. We must destroy the illusion that stopping bad guys justifies unconstitutional dragnets. Stopping a criminal by creating a constitutional crisis is ridiculous because the state holds a monopoly on force, not individual criminals. Ergo, the state is the bigger threat. Unchecked and illegitimate police contracts are the bigger threat. Because council rules prevent a live debate, I'm converting these constitutional objections into 4 direct written questions for the city record. 1, does this council have the legal authority under the United States Constitution to seize and log the precise coordinates of all abiding citizens who are under 0 individualized suspicion? 2, does treating our public roads as a perpetual biometric grid constitute the exact type of warrantless general dragnet the 4th Amendment was written to outlaw? 3, do you recognize the dangerous precedent you are setting by allowing the police to use retroactive justification to say the 4,000 people we violated today was worth it and okay because we caught a really bad guy. It doesn't stand up to reason. 4, will this council recognize that the state cannot legally contract with a private entity to bypass the Bill of Rights and vote to completely terminate this contract? You do not need to overthink this policy nor balance public safety metrics. All you have to do is honor your sworn oath. The supreme law of the land has already made this decision for you. It's easy. Don't let this administration hide behind you. They answer to you, you answer to us, and we all must answer to the United States Constitution. First, move to amend tonight's agenda. Second, use these questions to put this administration on the record. Third, utilize our contract's built-in exit clause to vote to terminate the flock contract immediately. Finally, pass an ordinance permanently banning tracking grids in Oxford, so they can't just use Axon or the next best thing that comes out because technology's not gonna stop. The Constitution has set your limits, and I have just defined your path to honor it. No excuses remain now. You either disagree with the contract and follow the path I've laid out, or you agree with it and stay quiet. Your silence will no longer protect you in ambiguity, though, because I've defined the way out. Decide right now which is harder, sitting in silence or speaking up for what you know is right. I found sitting in silence harder, and that's why I'm here tonight. I'm glad I wasn't the only one. I don't stick my neck out for no reason. I know police officers don't stick their neck out for no reason, and they should be able to stick their neck out for the Constitution when it needs it so that we don't have to. Thank you.
Those are some hard acts to follow, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm Elizabeth Wardall, 22 Lantern Ridge Road. Thank you for letting me speak tonight about the flock camera contract. I'll begin by asking you to imagine that every day a camera watches you take out your trash, and one day you forget to separate out your recycling. So the camera takes a picture of your face and projects it onto a building uptown to publicly shame you. Imagine that your police department uses camera technology to determine how angry or afraid you are, and then uses that information to watch you more closely. This is not science fiction. These are examples of surveillance technologies currently being used in China. And they warn us about what can happen when surveillance is normalized. Flock is a private, for-profit technology company. It is not our police department. It is not our government. When we turn over surveillance technology to a private company, we should ask, how much control do we have over that data, and what is it used for? And the answer is none. I'm sure our local police try their best to do the right thing with the data, but this is not their system, and they don't control the data that's in it. In Mountain View, California, city officials recently discovered that multiple federal agencies had accessed their flock data for several months without the local police department's knowledge or permission. And that's because Flock had turned on a nationwide search setting. Why should we be concerned about this? Because every time you drive by a Flock camera, it records your license plate, your vehicle description, a time, and the location you drove by. And that information is then searched by anyone who has access to the data. Flock, as you know, has installed not one camera in Oxford, but many. Put enough cameras together like that, and you have a surveillance network. Anyone with access to that network can track your daily habits. Your right to privacy is as central to the Constitution as your right to bear arms. If a police officer thinks you've done something wrong, he must demonstrate probable cause to violate your privacy. The Flock system bypasses that protection, and our local police cannot control who Flock gives access to. We are told it is worth giving up this American right to privacy in order to be safer. I don't accept that, but if you do, then you should be able to provide clear evidence right now that these cameras actually make us safer. Right now, that evidence is not as compelling as the hype. One recent study found that Flock cherry-picked data about reducing crime, and that overall serious crime in that city went up after Flock cameras were installed. As far as I can tell, Oxford is not a hotbed of violent crime. And even if it is, if you could provide, prove that we are safer for paying our hard-earned tax dollars to have this company basically stalk us, we should still be concerned about the fact that their technology makes serious mistakes. A recent study found that 71% of Flock alerts about stolen vehicles or vehicles used in crimes involved a license plate misread. Who is going to pay your legal fees and correct the accusations made about you on Oxford Talk when you are arrested for a crime that you didn't commit because of a Flock misread? If for some reason you are willing to give up your civil liberties in order to possibly cut down crime, even if innocent people are accused in the process, then consider one last consequence. More surveillance creates more data. More data requires more computing. More computing requires more infrastructure, servers, electricity, networks, and data centers. By using Flock cameras, we are choosing to build a community where our lives are converted into data requiring data centers that then use our water and our electricity. Many other cities, including Dayton, Newport, and LA, have ended their contracts with Flock, but here, more cameras have gone up just this past month on every road in and out of Oxford. You have basically chosen to pay an outside company to set up a geofence around Oxford. You have created a system forcing us all to record our comings and goings every time we leave our house. I voted for each of you. I did vote for each of you with the expectation that you would protect our civil liberties. And I hope that you will do that and make the decision tonight to end this contract. Thank you.
Howdy, Steve Sullivan, 104 Marty Court. I'm here this evening in the context of talking about Flock cameras, but I want to acknowledge that Flock is like Kleenex. It's become shorthand for a system of AI-powered data gathering devices, including devices that track both digitally and visually. And most importantly, the databases that are created by using these devices. These things that we're talking about tonight, not merely the brand Flock, these are things that can track all sorts of things, like passing cars through their license plates, passing cell phones through their Bluetooth signals, and passenger images. Regardless of what our contract specifies, these devices have such capabilities. And they create a digital fingerprint of every single one of us that is trackable over time. They are generating data. We have seen it used. These devices are fundamentally different than things like red light cameras, which are triggered when there is a potential offense. Rather, Flock is essentially a warrantless, pre-crime privacy violation tool. We have seen these kinds of tools used in this way when police officers from one state access the database created across multiple states to accuse someone, based on their driving patterns, of purchasing marijuana. Citation is Wisconsin Police, August 6th this year. In the United States, we certainly have a lot of databases, but we intentionally keep those databases separate. Things like voter rolls, healthcare issues, things like this, as a way to ensure our constitutionally protected right to privacy. But what use are HIPAA protections when police can merely analyze a woman's driving habits and use that as probable cause to accuse her of having received an abortion, regardless of local utopian policies on database use, such as have been read this evening? Citation, Texas used cameras based in Aurora, Illinois for such citations. In some cases, databases are intentionally not centralized as broadly searchable in our country. Things like gun ownership. Now, certainly we may have lots of feelings about this specific issue, but having Flock cameras placed at gun ranges circumvents a lot of constitutionally protected expectations. More than 400 agencies have accessed these cameras and their correlated databases, citation Forbes. Of course, any database can be subject to abuse, but Flock at least is making significant news by the large number of police officers, authorized users, who have access to the database numerous times for personal and nefarious purposes, including tracking women, ex-partners, and other innocent citizens. Citations for this abound. We are assured that there are safeguards on the database, arguably such as those proposed this evening, such as two-factor authentication. However, when Flock CEOs or Flock officials testify about such safeguards, and their testimony is later analyzed, it's found that they did not tell the whole truth. In this particular instance, the citation is Flock Director Kevin Kane under oath in West Virginia. This puts into question the efficacy of the currently proposed software limits, let alone the trustworthiness of the data retention companies, private for-profit companies, as has already been emphasized, and their infrastructure protections, which, as we've shown, are limited at best. And such systems, while touted to the public to be little more than license plate readers and crime-solving tools, are generating a significant amount of additional data, including the faces and behaviors of people engaged in activities that should not be recorded. There are flock cameras pointed at the exits of hardware stores, overseeing the activity areas of community pools, and apparently flock employees demonstrated their ability to access non-flock cameras on a city system by overseeing and viewing a children's indoor ballet class, Dunwoody, Georgia. We might say that like any tool, flock-type cameras and the databases can be used for both good and bad. But this is a very glib explanation because it neglects to recognize the scale that different tools are capable of. A hand saw is less dangerous than a table saw. A traffic camera only collects a photograph. A flock database collects that same photograph regardless of potential infraction, along with a host of other non-crime relevant data, and the system facilitates uses of that information in ways that makes us all essentially pre-criminals. See the testimony of Dr. V. Trin from Ohio State University. We even find that once installed, whether or not a community chooses to keep its flock database or its flock contract, such as we are discussing this evening, flock continues to use those tools to add to its database. Littletown, Massachusetts. Was that my time?
That was your time, yeah.
Can I read?
Like 3 seconds to finish.
All right. There are those who make the claim that if you're doing nothing wrong, you have nothing to fear. That's a fallacy. As society and national legislative bodies, we have not put sufficient guardrails on databases yet, despite the proposal just stated, especially when databases are created by private companies.
Okay, that was probably 3 seconds.
Our police force has done a great job. They can do it without law.
Hi, my name is Jordan Gresham, and I live at 6095 Contreras Road. And today I'm speaking out in opposition of flock cameras in our community. I'm 21 years old, and I've lived in Oxford for 20 years. And today I'll be bringing up some facts and common misconceptions about flock cameras, discussing the political divide over them, and addressing some concerns people had on social media about the surveillance in Oxford. First of all, flock cameras are wildly inaccurate. While the company reports an accuracy rate of over 96%, the police department of Roseville, California ran its own analysis of the cameras and found that there was a 71% failure rate. They often will read as an 8 as a 9, and there are many other discrepancies across them. On June 28th, a man was test driving a Range Rover from the lot when suddenly he was swarmed by police for stolen plates. However, when they ran it, the car was just owned by Land Rover North America. Which just goes to show, would you hire someone who failed their job 71% of the time? I certainly wouldn't. It'd be like hiring a 5-year-old. It doesn't make sense. Another comment I would like to make is, as with many issues across the country, I have noticed a pretty clear political divide around these cameras. Not to make generalizations, but a lot of the time, it is more left-wing people against the cameras, more right-wing people that are for them. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me for 2 main reasons. One is that many right-wing reporters and politicians are very against the cameras. I don't agree with much of what Tucker Carlson says, but I agree with what he said in his episode on flock cameras, saying that, quote, privacy is a prerequisite for freedom. You cannot be free unless you can have independent thoughts and privacy, and independent thoughts are impossible without privacy. And on people vandalizing the cameras, he said, but they're videos, in other words, of people who don't feel that they have any other resource whatsoever, making one last-ditch attempt to preserve the one thing that makes them feel free in this or any other country, their birthright, by the way, and that's called privacy. They don't have it. They'd like it back. They think that the Constitution guarantees it to them. Their lawmakers don't care, their leaders don't care, their police departments don't care. They don't think it's to make them safer. They understand that it's to strip them of their basic humanity, which it is. And so the only thing that they're doing the only thing that they can imagine doing. The only thing the powerless can really do in a situation like this, they're taking matters to their own hands, and some of them are being punished for it. This proves that this is not an argument of left or right. This is an argument of basic human rights, which is confusing me about a lot of the opinions on this. I know many people who voted for Trump because they did not want to have the Second Amendment stripped of them. And they didn't want to give up any rights of having guns. So what about the Fourth Amendment, the amendment protecting people for unreasonable searches by the government, the right to our privacy? Are concerns for amendments being stripped away unimportant now? I would also like to address something that an individual said on Facebook about flock cameras in Oxford, saying, quote, you people are amazing. Do you not think that you're on camera every time you enter a store, school, or church? If a flock search is done, a trail is created to know exactly what is searched, who does it, and why. How many felony arrests have resulted from these cameras in Ohio or even the U.S. as a whole? If the city of Oxford and the Oxford Police Department are doing everything to make sure the information is safe, let them do their job and leave all the conspiracy crap to people in tinfoil hats, end quote. I have 2 comments to oppose this comment beyond like the obvious sort of aggravation of the post. So first of all, yes, there are cameras in most businesses, restaurants, and schools. However, you know when you're going into a school who is watching the cameras. Same with a store. I used to work at the Apple Tree in Oxford, and we had cameras to make sure that people weren't stealing the items, but the information wasn't being set to tech billionaires. It was just on our one computer. You do not know where the information from flock cameras go. You cannot say it is only the government, as this is a privately owned, venture-backed, for-profit tech company. While the government is looking at this data for better or for worse, this is not the only place that is storing this data. I would also like to address the second part of the statement, saying that there is always a trial done for each search, and that, quote, the police department is just doing everything to keep people safe. I refuse to believe this. Not only has there been proof of at least 50 police officers and law enforcement officials nationwide using these cameras for personal searches and even domestic stalking, with one officer who has since resigned from the Milwaukee Police Department after allegedly using the network to stalk his ex and her partner 180 times over 2 months. But there has been so much abuse over these searches that departments are now finally starting to make more restrictions. Even then, it is not enough. A senior policy analyst from ACLU, Jay Stanley, said that, quote, much of the world hasn't quite caught up to how much more powerful a surveillance camera is today compared to a few years ago. AI video analytics means that giant oceans of video data can now be searched the same way as big text files can be, including for sensitive context such as t-shirts, tattoos, and bumper stickers, end quote. These cameras don't need to have facial recognition to be used for stalking. They are not used solely for license plate numbers. They are used for mass surveillance. I'm against flock cameras, and I'm against the use of them in my town. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janice Dutton. That's spelled Janis, not ICE. This is start with that the Constable of Hood County, Texas, Constable John D. Shirley, posted on Facebook Saturday that he's shutting down flock cameras countywide to end warrantless tracking of citizens just going about their day. So it's not just a bunch of crazy civil rights activists doing this. In many cases, the police departments are taking the lead. When I first spoke to you about this a few months ago, I ended my comments saying, we are all full of contradictions, but sometimes it's really easy to cross the line into hypocrisy. That line has been crossed. I've seen you taking part in No Kings rallies uptown. The Condor surveillance camera on the pole next to Chipotle recorded it and has recorded all of our First Amendment activity. I've heard you say, or heard from you, that you want to protect immigrants from bad actors in the county. Bad actors. And yet more than 2,000 law enforcement agencies from our county and beyond, as far as El Cajon, California, requested and were granted unlimited access to our flock data. Once obtained, Oxford's officers in those agencies are free to share the data as they please with whomever they please. Are you so naive to think that none of it was used against the vulnerable populations that you claim to protect? The proposed guardrails do nothing. Again, because once the data is shared with agencies in adjacent counties, Oxford has no control over where it goes or how it's used. Logical fallacies abound in these discussions at City Council and the PCRRC around flock camera. Let me paraphrase a common red herring. I've seen it all over Facebook too, repeated in these discussions around surveillance cameras. If taking the cameras down saves one child of color from being kidnapped by federal agents and detained in an ICE facility, or their parents being taken from them, it's worth taking them down. The marches we all attend are very important. They're political theater, but they're not policy. The real test for you is what you vote for when you are not posturing at a rally. It's how you vote on local policies that help build the national infrastructure that hunts the people you claim to protect. Resistance is not only people holding signs or waving flags in the park. It is also people inside the institutions who refuse to be complicit and allow the regime to further its acts of abuse. The two forms of resistance need each other. Outside pressure exposes the abuse. Inside refusal denies it the local cooperation it needs. The word hypocrite comes from the Greek play acting, the wearing of a mask. The mask comes off at the vote. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I usually don't come out here, but I'm coming out here for tonight for the same reasons.
Could we get your
everyone
name and address, please?
else. Yes, it is Juan, and I live in the Oxford Commons. I'm here today for everyone else's concerns. You hear these people's cries to take down the flock cameras, understandably so. Now, I didn't come here with a script or anything, so I'm just kind of winging it. So, everyone here, we don't like flock cameras. We're expecting you guys to take them down really soon. Violates our civil liberties, and I'd rather not be treated like a terrorist or under a surveillance state in my own town. I believe that is a very reasonable request from a concerned citizen to his local government. That is all I got for now.
Hello, my name is Evan Pitts. I live at 305 Erickson Drive in Oxford. I did not have time to prepare anything either, so I agree with everything that's been stated prior, but I did want to touch on a couple other things. So I think that the primary issues with the flock cameras can be separated into maybe 4 separate categories. The constitutional privacy question, which I would argue is the most serious, but has been covered the most so far. The problems, the failures of Flock as a company to protect the data that it has and to act as it represents it does. The failures of its employees to act honorably with the information that they have access to, which hasn't been touched on very much. The potential failure of individual police officers or other law enforcement agencies to use the data in the methods that is meant to be used, which I don't particularly suspect will happen in Oxford, although because it is accessible from outside agencies, I don't see how we can govern that. And the fourth is also one of the more broad ones, is the technological failures. I have been in IT services and modeling and simulation using AI in my career, and so I have some technical expertise on this issue. There is no possible way to argue that Oxford owns our data unless we would argue that the word owns means leases access to it temporarily. We don't own it because we don't physically keep it. It exists on a site somewhere else, at a private institution, private company. They have access to it at all times. If I understand correctly from the Memorandum of Understanding signed by Oxford in 2024, Flock has right to use the information that's collected via those cameras in any way that it wants to, including potentially altering it. So we don't own anything, and there's no way to own it. The way that the technology works, there's no possible way we are going to own it. There's no safeguard that can be put on it that would make us own it because it exists, again, not physically in our domain, and it is accessible from outside forces. Similarly, the security on the cameras has proven deficient in many different instances. Different cameras, different models, different firmware updates have been hacked by outside sources, either ethical hackers or non-ethical hackers, been used for various purposes. There have been many cases of this demonstrated. Even some Flock cameras that were accessible via the open internet with no password protection. So there's a case about that in 2025. Flock as a company, additionally, again, this is not just about them, this is really about any company that has this business model, but specifically Flock altered their audit logs so to redact the name of the person that is searching, the individual searches through the camera network, and the reason for the search can also be as vague as the word investigation. So audits are effectively meaningless if that is the standard to which they're being held. So those two things I just kind of wanted to add on as an addendum. Obviously, the constitutional issue is a big deal. Potential abuses by individual, law enforcement, either abuses for personal reasons or for reasons that we just politically don't like. Either way, those are serious issues, but I just want to make sure everyone understands the technology is not reformable. It cannot be fixed because fundamentally the architecture does not allow for it. And none of these companies care about our data rights, and they're either completely incompetent in guarding it or they don't care, which is actually where I would kind of come down. I don't think it's really in their financial interest to care very much about it. So it exists. The internet is forever. Any piece of data that's taken, it's not just license plates. It's a collection of our behavior that will exist forever on the internet in someone else's pocket, and we have no right to it.
Hi, Linda Musmisi Kimball on Melinda Drive here in Oxford. Today I looked back at an old resolution passed by the Oxford City Council in August of 2003. It was resolution number 3935, a resolution affirming the civil rights of all residents of the city of Oxford. There were 10 sections. I only have the time to read the first two. Section 1, the city of Oxford, with a diverse population vital to its character and function, has a long history of protecting and expanding the civil rights and civil liberties of its residents. Section 2, the Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution guarantees those living in the United States the following rights: freedom of speech, religion, assembly, and privacy, equality before the law, and the presumption of innocence, access to counsel and due process in judicial proceedings, and protection from unreasonable searches and seizures. Well, neither the procedural recommendations of Police Chief Jones nor the responding recommendation of the 5 of the 6 PCRC members, and not the resolution that was prepared by city staff for council members. None of them addressed the underlying basis and the fundamental truth that Oxford's Flock, and other similar cameras with their indiscriminate data collection are tools for a nationwide mass surveillance system that threatens our privacy and civil liberties. No number of Band-Aid measures can change that. They are just window dressing. There are different reasons, as you may have heard tonight, but across the political spectrum, people are arriving at the same position, which is that mass government surveillance in this country has gotten completely out of control and needs to be reined in. I don't consent to being watched. I don't consent to having records of my whereabouts being stored and shared with who knows how many others and for whatever purpose. And I don't want my community to be part of this national network of surveillance cameras. I don't want my community to be tempted, as others have been, by lucrative federal grants that require cities to build out their surveillance infrastructure, like the Trump administration's Model Cities Initiative, which has offered its first $300 million to cities that invest in proactive policing and more surveillance technology. Put an end to our community's contract with Flock.
Anyone else? All right, before we begin council discussion, I just want to thank you all for coming tonight. And if you spoke for the first time tonight, I really appreciate your coming and doing that. I really remember the first time I spoke before council 20-some years ago. So, all right, council questions and discussion.
Okay. I have a number of comments that I have written down, and I'm going to try and go through them. After we listen to other counselors, I will have an amendment to make. I'd like to point out that the legislation that I requested is not here. And I would like to point out that this resolution, if we voted no, would, I think, have no impact on our flock cameras and what we have. So I do think that council deserves, and the people deserve, the right to hear us decide one way or another tonight whether we support this system. I want to thank all of the citizens who came. You're just amazing, and I very much appreciate you being here and speaking. And as I know from having taught speech that it's not easy to stand up in front of a microphone and say your name and give a speech. So good job. You did a really nice job. I also want to preface my comments by saying that I believe that Oxford Police Department has integrity, and I trust them. And I have no doubt that Chief Jones and other members of the police department would not abuse this system. And I don't think that's what's at stake or under discussion tonight. In fact, I have just on social media defended the police department, and I will do so again. However, I am concerned about most of the things that the people have talked about tonight. I am especially concerned with a mass surveillance program that makes me think of Big Brother in 1984. I am concerned that this gives the opportunity, and it may not be now, but it may be in the future, to track political opponents, to find out who's in the city square demonstrating one way or another. I don't care if you're red or blue, it shouldn't matter. I'm worried about the stalking potential. With all of these recommendations, I appreciate them, and I know that they were taken with a lot of care and good intent. But one of the things that it says here is that we will, only specific users can do it, and it's going to be limited to our county and our adjacent counties. Well, frankly, Cincinnati is a rather huge city in Hamilton County, which is right next door. I don't trust them. Bottom line, I don't trust all of the police in Cincinnati. I trust our police, but I don't necessarily trust all of them. And if it goes, I don't trust everybody in Butler County. And I wouldn't doubt that a sheriff or some other person of respectability in law enforcement might get our data and decide to share it, I don't know, with somebody like ICE. And it's possible to me, I think, that ICE might not, just a possibility that they might not be truthful when they put in the request reason. That's possible. And because of that possibility, I don't know how we could make any other decision. I appreciate our police department, and I know that they want to do the right thing and they want to solve crimes, and I'm all for that. And I've spoken here previously on thinking about What if a crime had been to me? Would I want that ability? And I have wrestled with it, and I told my friends and my wife before I came to this meeting, I had no idea how I was going to vote. I was going to wait and listen to the arguments. I would be shocked if you could convince me that the potential for mass surveillance and Big Brother covering our every move and tracking political opponents and the current or future administrations at the federal level, whether they would use the data in ways that we did not intend, did not authorize, and did not want, they could do that. And I don't want that on my conscience, that we sat here with an opportunity to stop it, and we didn't. When you think of all the crap that has happened in our country over the last 4 years, 7, 8 years, and people who were elected to Senate could have stopped it. They could have just put an end to it, and they didn't. This isn't a right or a left issue, but the point is, we have an opportunity. I feel really strongly about this, and I would be interested what my colleagues have to say, but I will be making an amendment when we've all had a chance to speak.
Mr. Fitch?
Yeah, I can go next. So I agree with much of what Councilman Snavely just said. I want to say something out front, though, before I get into any in-depth remarks of my own. So one of the things I've noticed in this country recently, and I think has caused a lot of political distress nationwide, is that we don't all operate on the same set of facts. In my mind, a fact is a fact, okay? You can't have an alternate fact. And so what I'm specifically focusing on here is, I heard one of the commenters said that a district court, and pardon me, I'm an attorney by trade, and so I tend to focus on things like this, but one of the commenters said that a district court in Norfolk, Virginia found that Flock was unconstitutional. And I have to disagree with that, and I will ask our city attorney to confirm that. But my reading of the case was that he held that in that particular case, the use of Flock did not violate the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, but he did end his opinion by stating that is true for now. So I think he was signaling that it's possible in the future that a court could decide that the Flock system violates the Fourth Amendment, but it's not accurate to say that currently the Flock system violates the Fourth Amendment. That's just not true, okay? But I don't think that takes away from any of your arguments, because I think the Constitution establishes a bare minimum standard that society has agreed to live by, right? We're allowed to set our own moral standards that are higher than the Constitution sets. And so I really feel like Flock might be appropriate for some cities, but in this particular situation with our particular group of citizens and our interests, I don't believe Flock is the right thing for the city at this moment. Okay, I believe that Flock sort of violates a higher moral standard that we all hold ourselves to in this community. Other communities might not hold themselves to that standard, and that's fine. And that's why they can continue to have Flock. And it doesn't violate the Constitution until a court specifically says that Flock violates the Constitution. Okay, so I'm just making this statement because if one of my fellow council members votes to uphold Flock, I don't want them to be accused of violating the Constitution when it's not true. So that is the basic fact that I wanted to get straight before I had any further comments about Flock. But I tend to agree with much of what Councilor Snavely said. I don't really like the way that this resolution is presented to us because it puts me in a sort of an awkward procedural position. If I were to vote no on the resolution in front of me, that would mean I'm voting that there will be no restrictions on Flock. Then I think that what was said at the outset of this meeting, that would signal that, okay, we're going to have a follow-up vote later to terminate Flock. But in the meantime, we're going to have Flock as it exists without the restrictions. If I vote no, if everyone votes no, we're going to have Flock without the restrictions. If we convene a vote, whenever it is, in 2 weeks, in 4 weeks, whenever, there's no guarantee that vote's going to pass, right? And so if that vote doesn't pass, then we end up with Flock without restrictions because we just voted to say no to these restrictions. And so I feel like in my position right now, I need to vote on these restrictions, okay? Unless someone amends the resolution, I am going to vote to uphold these restrictions because I think this half measure is better than anything else that's on the table right now. That doesn't signal that I fully 100% support Flock. It's just that my opinions right now are limited to what's in front of us. And if what is in front of us changes, then I may change my opinion.
So the solution to that is to agree to have a vote on whether to cancel Flock, whether or not we decide tonight whether to adopt these.
That would be one way to do it, yes. It seems that the sort of procedural setup that you should vote no on this if you want to signal that you disapprove of Flock doesn't make sense. Because it leaves us with Flock with no restrictions, and that doesn't make any sense at all. The restrictions are better than having no restrictions. I understand some of you say the restrictions don't go far enough. In fact, I was going to suggest that if we agree to restrictions, I think one thing that could be included as an additional restriction is that currently, and I don't know for sure, but I believe that under our current contract, the data that Flock holds the data for 30 days, or we hold the data for 30 days, and then it's poof, it goes away. That's at least what the contract says. Flock says they're changing that as of January 1st, 2027, and they're only going to allow the data to exist for 7 days, and then it goes poof. So as an interim measure, I would like to add that restriction to this list of conditions that were proposed to have the data go poof after 7 days. I think that additional restriction, again, is better than nothing. The alternative is no restrictions on Flock. So I'll just leave it there. See what our other council people say.
I just wanted to correct something. So I believe, if I understand it right, the default setting is going to 7 days. So you
Yes.
can store data more than that, but you have to request it, I think, just to clear that up. But I would support that we add that as amendment, as well as I have an amendment, but it's probably the same one that you were going to put up. If I can I address some of our expertise here, ask JJ some questions, and Chris, unless somebody wants to go before.
Speak right into
Sorry, I'm really bad at that. I'm sorry. I was requesting the ability. I would like to ask JJ and Chris some questions before we move on, if that's okay. So JJ, can you tell us what happens when, let's say we limit it to local counties? If there's a request for information from our cameras, what is the procedure? What happens? Do they automatically get access because we've agreed to share it? Is there a query by query review of it before they get access to that?
You were asking if we get I'm confused by who's asking the question, who's asking for the query.
If an officer that's within the counties that we've mentioned puts in a request for something, do they automatically get access to the data because we've agreed to share it? Or does that request come in and then we look at it and go, this seems reasonable, they're doing it for this reason, they've signed off for it, this person, it's not out of the ordinary, it makes sense, we approve it, then they get access? Or do they just get access?
I'll do my best to answer that. So the proposal to restrict it down to adjacent counties is, first of all, that's already begun. Like, we've already started working on that. It makes sense. And, I've done 2 presentations on this. I've explained away. I still hear a lot of false information coming up here. But what we have already started to do is shrink that data down. And so if we share, for instance, with Hamilton Police, then no, they just, when they search, they just enter the license plate in, and they're searching all the networks that they share with, or that they're shared with them. So, no, it would not be a query by query ask.
Okay. So we wouldn't have review on the front end, we would only have it on the back end through audits?
Yes.
If something was unusual or inappropriate. Thanks. I probably have more, but I also had some questions for. So these concerns that you're bringing up are not new to me. I've been yelling about this for some time, but at the same time, talking about worrying about what happens, the same fear I have of it being misused for ICE or for gender affirming care or reproductive rights, I also have the same fears, which you also mentioned at previous, of an event happening in which we could stop or catch somebody who's doing something serious and don't have that, or the preventive nature of having the cameras available. And I believe it's really hard to judge what is more probable in the public because of natural base rate fallacies and publication bias. We're going to hear about every story that comes out across the country because this is shocking and scary to our civil rights. And of course, they don't catch all of it, although right now there's a ton of audits going on. So you might double the rate at which we've heard stories. And we hear 100 stories, but it's like across the entire country. Meanwhile, we don't hear about every time Flock solves a crime of any significance or prevents a crime, which you can't do because you don't know the counterfactual. So I think probabilistically, I think as a scientist, and so I try to weigh these different threats. And the amount of worry I have towards crimes that happen all the time or would be prevented or stopped or somebody jailed who really needs to be jailed because they are a threat, I think generally outweighs that. But I'm trying to rein it in as much as possible because I have these concerns. Before the public ever brought it up to me, I probably made a dozen posts on this and about technology that is way worse that ICE currently has than what we're experiencing with Flock. Though that doesn't take away from this. This is still its own issue. But some questions I had, which I asked previously, is can we contact Flock and ask them legally, in writing, who has access to our data, right? Now, we can't trust them, agreed, and we can't.
Excuse me, excuse me. Public comments are done.
So, if I could keep going. I wanted to know who has access legally, because yes, they can abuse it, and there's instances of abuse, but also, and no, we can't own it, right, because it's digital, but everything's digital. Our money's digital. That doesn't mean we don't own it, we don't have a legal right to it, and we can't legally fight for it. So my question is, who legally has a right? Do they have any intermediary right to access the data in which they couldn't be legally held accountable if we were to sue them for illegally accessing our data? And I know that's a hard thing to answer beyond just the contractual nature of it, but I'd at least want that contractual nature made explicit, if that made sense.
You lost me.
Yeah, you lost me too.
But we have asked those questions, and they've been explicitly saying that we own the data. Obviously, as the citizens have expressed, it's a private company that has access to that data. They make promises. But what I guess I would share is I think, based on the citizen conversation I'm hearing tonight, many of which are from outside the city limits who don't pay taxes here. So I would keep that in mind as well. We need to have a larger conversation about police technology, about surveillance technology, because all the data on our body cams, all that data of police reports, all the data, all these systems, all this technology we have is stored by private companies. So this focus on Flock, I think, is being driven by false information on social media, by the media themselves, by people getting very worked up over something that that I understand the concern certainly, but the fact that Mr. Sullivan talking about it, picking up your Bluetooth, well that's just not true. So I'm going to call that out. People are talking about mistakes being made by Flock. Sure, they do create errors, but that's a human error. As we talked about at PCRC, a police officer should not be taking action based solely on a Flock hit. And that should be in every police department's procedure manual and policy. And when they violate that, they should be addressing it. But I understand it happens. It's happened with me on leads somebody reported their car stolen. There was an entry wrong in Leeds. We've stopped the car, done a felony stop, and it's the wrong person. That's where training comes in. It's very important that something doesn't go tragically wrong. So it's, again, being driven by false narratives. It's being driven by social media. It's the thing of all concern right now, and it's all focused on Flock, but there needs to be a larger conversation about all your, when you go on Miami University's campus, some of these folks work at Miami University. Maybe they should realize how much they're being surveyed, okay? Maybe not by Flock, but by a lot of other cameras. So you can eliminate Flock in Oxford. You could restrict it down to just the police department in Oxford too. That would be an option. We recommended to PCRC, the group that you told us to go to have this conversation. It was a 3-hour meeting. You could do those other restrictions, but you can eliminate it. And then when you go down to McGonigal, you're gonna get hit by Flock cameras. The gentleman speaking from Stoll, Beckett Road, maybe he should go to the county commissioners and talk about the sheriff's contract with Flock. He doesn't pay taxes in the city of Oxford. So again, you can eliminate it here and we won't have it when something bad happens. But you're still gonna be tracked if that's what you wanna use the term. All it does is takes a picture of your car as it goes by a fixed point. It doesn't take picture. We don't know what church you're going to. We don't know what political rallies you're going to. So there's a lot of false information out there, but I understand the concern. But I do believe that Flock, we own the data. The law directors looked at that. That's pretty clear. But you're gonna keep hearing everybody say that we don't. So maybe you should look at Axon and end our body cam contract. There's a lot more private information on our body cams than there is on Flock.
I'll stop there to let other people talk, even though I could say more.
Couple things. One, Councilor Vinch is correct. There is no definitive ruling that Flock violates the Fourth Amendment. That case is currently under appeal. I'm sure there's going to be other cases. I've said this before, the law follows technology, and that's where we are. And there's no question that the explosion of technology is going to create more and more challenges. Another fact I want to clear up is the MOU is an irrelevant document to this discussion. It was superseded by the contract. So again, the MOU doesn't matter. I'm also going to tell council that you have another option, because you're looking at this as make amendments or terminate. You can suspend it. Contractually, you're going to have to pay through the end of the term anyway. Suspend the use and turn the cameras off. And then you can have a debate that doesn't require a decision tonight that says yay or nay, and it would give you an opportunity to make a determination without some of the pressures you may feel if that's a path you want to go.
Who else?
Okay, I have some thoughts. I wrote them down because I knew it would be long. I'm already tired. The semester's just about to start, and I usually speak extemporaneously, but wanted to be prepared tonight. I have a couple procedural questions. So one, having served on PCRC, and thank you for your work, I understand that when a recommendation comes from a commission to council, it comes in the form of a resolution. And so I think part of this is recognizing the work that PCRC has done with OPD to come up with these recommendations. However, I also feel like these changes wouldn't have required a vote from council, right? I mean, OPD could have made these changes on their own without necessarily having to bring a resolution forward before council. So the only vote that really required a resolution before council regarding Flock is the one that we do not have before us today, which would be a vote to terminate the agreement. So I just want to point that out. And so here are my prepared statements. And I'm framing this in terms of past, present, and future. So past. I recently went back, this is a couple months ago now, and watched the February 4th, 2024 council meeting when we considered OPD's request to enter into agreement with Flock. I will add that at the time, there was no public comment in person at that meeting. It was a very quiet meeting. I did ask several questions One concerned the contract's 30-day data retention policy. Another concerned an indemnification clause. I don't know if you remember, Mr. Kennard, you had answered that thoroughly. But I also asked whether flock cameras were akin to red light or speeding cameras. Chief Jones correctly assured me that they were neither, and I supported the resolution to enter into the flock agreement. But why did I ask that question about red light and speeding cameras? Well, at the time, communities across Ohio were increasingly pushing back against red light and speeding cameras. In recent days, I decided to look more closely at why that pushback occurred around that time, and why many municipalities that once embraced these programs eventually abandoned them, though not all did, but many did. Dayton entered into a red light camera agreement in 2002, and in 2013, there was a bipartisan bill in the state legislature, House Bill 69, that was introduced by Representative Ron Magg, a Republican from Lebanon, and Dale Mallory, a Democrat from Cincinnati. The bill sought to prohibit the use of picture or video technology to issue citations for speeding and traffic light violations. Supporters viewed these cameras as both a revenue-generating scheme and a threat to due process, supporters of the bill. The bill passed the House, but ultimately it died in the Senate amid significant lobbying by companies that supported the technology and concerns that a statewide ban on traffic light cameras would interfere with municipal home rule. In 2015, the legislature took a different approach. It imposed restrictions intended on discouraging the use of traffic cameras. Those restrictions were later found unconstitutional by the Ohio Supreme Court as violations of home rule. An example of one of those restrictions was that an officer had to be at the traffic light location, camera location, in order for the ticket issued to be a valid ticket. But eventually, the state tried another approach. That was financial penalties. For every dollar that a municipality raised through traffic fines, the state funding could be reduced by the same amount. And the Ohio Supreme Court upheld that in '22. Finally, in 2025, Governor DeWine signed an $11 billion transportation budget that included further restrictions on the use of traffic cameras by counties and townships. My point is this: Ohio has been debating, regulating, restricting, defending, and reconsidering camera technology and the use of traffic light cameras for more than 2 decades. Present. Today, the debate continues. House Bill 843 and Senate Bill 340, introduced in June 26, would allow local voters to decide whether law enforcement should be permitted to use camera systems to issue speeding and red light citations. Importantly, that legislation does not include flock. 23 years after Dayton began using red light cameras, our state is still grappling with how, whether this technology should be used. Programs have been implemented, suspended, restarted, and abandoned. So why should we believe that we cannot change our minds on flock? Why should we not be able to pump the brakes if we believe that this technology is advancing faster than our laws, our courts, or our public policies can keep up with? Red light cameras became controversial largely because they extracted money from citizens who believed their due process rights were being ignored. In many communities, these programs were ultimately suspended because they became too expensive or not financially worthwhile to operate to the law enforcement departments. But money shouldn't be the only metric by which we measure whether a program is worth its cost. Flock may not directly extract money from citizens through fines, but taxpayer dollars are being spent to support the system. And the system may extract something else, which is a sense of privacy and freedom that many Americans hold dear. Privacy has value, and so does freedom, and those are also forms of currency. So for that reason, I support ending our flock contract. I want to move to the future because I want to draw your attention to something I've brought up on council before. In the Ohio State Legislature, there's a bill called House Bill 26. It's called the Protecting Ohio Communities Act. Among other things, the bill would require local law authorities to cooperate with federal government enforcement of immigration laws. It would require individuals to be held on federal detainers for up to 48 hours and impose funding reductions for noncompliance. It also contains an emergency provision, which means that it could take place immediately upon the governor's signature rather than the usual 90-day waiting period. The bill has been dormant in committee, but I don't believe we've heard the last of it. I will accept the wisdom of council on this vote, but I strongly believe that if we choose to maintain the agreement, even with the proposed amendments, we'll likely find ourselves revisiting this issue in the not-too-distant future. And I want us to remember that changing our minds is not an admission that we were wrong to act in the first place. We did the best we can with the information we had at the time. Sometimes it's just acknowledging that when the world changes, we might be able to change as well.
First off, I want to thank the number of people who have contacted me through emails and had conversations with me in various places throughout the city over recent months regarding the issue of flock cameras. I've spent a lot of time doing research on my own, in addition to looking at all the materials that have been sent to me by various residents throughout the city, including a relative who's presently living in Spain. So one of the things that I asked before the June 16th meeting was the issue of the cost-benefit analysis of the use of the flock cameras in terms of solving crimes in Oxford. And I have not been able to get specific answers about that. And I guess it has to do with our lack of auditing in terms of the city's keeping track of the various crimes that have been committed, that have been solved through the use of flock cameras. And that to me is particularly troubling. In addition to everything else that has been said here tonight, what happened before 2024 that led to the decision to implement the use of flock cameras in the city? Was there an uptick in crime, unsolvable crimes, that led to the decision to implement the cameras as an additional tool for policing in the city? I don't know, as of this point, what crimes have been committed that have been solved through the use of flock, how many of those crimes have been solved through the use of flock. And so is it even worth the cost in terms of monetary value, not only the psychic cost of our community members, knowing that we are being surveilled in such a way? One of the speakers tonight talked about, Dr. Elizabeth Wardell, talked about the evidence, and that's what I'm concerned about. I don't have the evidence. I mentioned in June about possible alternatives. We have yet to hear of any possible alternatives. So in terms of where we stand today, I too, if I were presented with an alternative resolution, would vote no on the issue of flocks in the city. That is what I have to say.
Sure, I will weigh in. I think that what I have is probably going to get me put in the, like, hey, you're a fence sitter at best, a hypocrite at worst camp, just to be fully transparent. So I, too, thank everybody for coming, for those who have talked to us via public comment, via, hey, did you see this YouTube video? I saw this article. I have read, I have listened, I have looked at everything. So I don't want this to come across like what has been said is falling on deaf ears. I think the best way that I can encapsulate where I sit on this issue right now is to describe my birthday, which it's not like a self-serving thing. I promise it has a point. So I went to a local bakery to get a super fun sweet treat to celebrate my birthday. A person that I know well and know socially, after I said out loud, I'm celebrating my birthday today, proceeded to tell me that I was running a surveillance state and propping up government surveillance in a way that was harmful to our communities. Again, happy to listen, would have loved it to maybe be 48 hours or 24 hours later. Later that same day, my mom called me and said, hey, I'm okay, but I was in a hit and run. And I was like, okay, glad you are all right. What happened? And she said, well, the guy pulled into a parking lot and like skipped the left-hand turn, and the police found him using flock cameras. And I was like, you're kidding me. And she said, nope, flock cameras. And I said, okay, great. So I sit with this. Where would I be if I wasn't on council? Where do my personal politics sit with this issue? But then I also think, in addition to upholding civil liberties, that the reason that at least some people voted for me is to listen to city staff and to sit between the public and what we hear from our constituents and the staff of the city, who are the experts in the domains in which they work. I've talked to a lot of staff on OPD. I've been actively engaged with the lieutenants and the chief about this issue. What are our alternatives? What does it look like if we turn it off? What does it look like if we really take it down to bare bones? And I don't think there's a good answer. I hear all of you, and I am right there with you on a mega corporation and a private corporation at that is not ideal. But perhaps I'm too jaded to believe that we have an option in front of us if we want to maintain a useful tool for our officers that ALPRs are. We don't currently have an alternative that's not some sort of networked entity. And perhaps that means just get rid of it and wait. Sure. But in the short term, hearing my own family's case being solved by flock cameras, other cases that have been solved by flock cameras, I have a hard time looking at OPD and saying, no, you can't have that. So perhaps where I'm sitting is I would be okay with keeping flock and respecting the citizen input from PCRRC, listening to those recommendations. And I will say too, with a massive caveat, it's not forever. I would love to try to exist in a gray area. Again, maybe that puts me in as a fence sitter. Maybe it puts me in as a hypocrite. Maybe, I don't know, insert whatever you want to think about it here. But I'd like to think that it gives us a little bit of gray area, a little bit of nuance to understand, have we met you halfway? Or are you continuing to say, no, not enough, cancel the contract, at which point we cancel the contract? So that's where I sit. Those are my 2 cents, but it sounds like we're maybe going to be looking at an amended resolution anyways. So thank you.
All right. I too wrote some things down, and Bill, they mirror almost everything you said exactly. I do want to thank the PCRRC. That was a long 3-hour meeting that you guys put on, but it was informative, and we got a lot out on the table, and I appreciate that. We needed to do that. Like my colleague, the vice mayor, if you'd asked me 6 hours ago, I still wasn't sure where I was on this. But I did some writing, I did some research. I do know, I trust the Oxford Police. I trust that they would not misuse the flock data. I want them to have every tool in their toolkit. You know, when they pull somebody over, I want them to know that maybe Flock told them they have a violent warrant, so they're prepared. But I also know I don't trust Flock. I don't trust Flock any further than I could throw them. And when we first did this in 2024, it seemed like a relatively simple thing to do. And now we find ourselves as part of a nationwide network. And I don't think we signed up for that. So I think we should probably, for now, end our contract with Flock until we have some more legislative guidelines, if those ever come. I don't have high hopes of that. I think we're going to get more guidelines from the courts in the future, but probably not till spring or next summer. But that's where I am. Now, in the future, maybe when the law and technology intersect and we have possibly some control. Maybe there'll be something in the future that can do this. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But for now, I'm in the no flock court.
Can I
So-
make my
I have one more comment. So I just wanted to say something in support of your very insightful comments. For all those in the audience that think this is a simple no-brainer decision, it really is not. It's been weighing on me for a long time. And this has caused me to think about two different things. First is, what is my role as a city councilman? So you guys elected me, right, based on the popular vote. And did you elect me to use my best judgment to do what is right on behalf of the city? Or did you elect me to reflect the popular will and that alone? I don't know what the answer to that question is. That's the age-old question in democracies. I think it's a little of both. And so I agree with much of what Alex said. The other thing that keeps me awake at night is, I get it. It seems to most people that canceling the flock contract is a no-brainer. To me, it's not a no-brainer for several reasons. One is that, like others have stated, I completely trust the Oxford Police Department and Chief Jones, 100%. This is not a reflection on them at all, from my perspective. The problem is, from my perspective, that we don't have control of the data once it leaves our hands. Once we share it with someone else, we don't know if there's a bad actor using that data. And I don't think there's any way that we can ensure ourselves that that doesn't happen. The other thing that keeps me awake at night is that thought of, what about that? And everyone, I've heard a couple people mention it, and they said, oh, it's not worth it. In the long run, it's not worth it. But the situation where someone's child is kidnapped out of Oxford, and we are unable to track the vehicle, and something terrible happens to the child outside of our jurisdiction. And we could have avoided that if we had flock cameras. Okay? I mean, I've heard people say, oh, that's highly unlikely, and the cost is not worth the risk, but it's different when you're sitting in my shoes having to make this decision, because if something like that does happen in the future, where are the fingers going to point? They're going to point at us as council members, and that's where the blame should go, right? We're responsible for this decision. The police chief isn't. The police chief wanted flock. The citizenry isn't necessarily responsible for the decision. You're just exercising your First Amendment rights to express your opinions. But we're the ones that are making this decision. And so this is not an easy decision. And so I completely agree with Alex that this causes me a lot of concern too. But on the whole, I think that Oxford is just not the community for this kind of thing, ultimately. Other communities, this is fine. This doesn't violate the Constitution as the law currently stands, and I can understand why other citizens in other jurisdictions might think it's appropriate to use flock, but I just don't think it's the appropriate thing to do right now.
Those are really good comments, and I resonate with them quite a bit. And your story of the hit and run is exactly the kind of thing that I was bringing up at an earlier discussion. And, something happened to my granddaughter, I'd run a no. On the other hand, I just don't trust them. And that's the bottom line, I think. There have been too many cases where people haven't been trustworthy. Unfortunately, that happens to our data when we don't have as much control as we would like. And I share your opinion that I trust Oxford's police department 100%, and I think that they are honorable. With that in mind, I propose the following amendment. In the title of the resolution, instead of maintaining, I would change to terminate. So a resolution to terminate the Flock Group, Inc. agreement, and scratch with amendments to procedures. Keep the first whereas, and strike the second and third whereas, And in section 1, the current agreement with Flock Group, Inc. will be terminated with the and you can drop the with the implementation part. Just the present agreement with Flock Inc. will be terminated. And the resolution should take effect at the earliest date by law. So that's my amendment. Did you get all that? Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the,
Can we talk about it?
we can.
So I guess I have a question about what this would do, what this means practically, and maybe this is directed at Chief Jones. Is there just a switch you can flip to turn Flock off? Or, I mean, I know that Dayton canceled their Flock contract, and they ended up putting garbage bags over their Flock cameras for a period of time in order to block them. Is that what we're going to end up having to do?
We'll just contact Flock and advise them of this, and that we want to terminate the contract. We'll have to speak with the law director of what that means. But yeah, I mean, we'll just turn them off if Flock is able to do that. If not, you know, we'll have to come up with a measure or something like that to stop using them. So I don't have that answer
Okay.
right now.
Okay, fair enough.
Any other questions? All right, I have an amendment, and I have a second. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I have, the amendment carries 5-2.
Now we would vote on the main motion.
So the main motion, which is a resolution to terminate the Flock Group Incorporated agreement, is what our motion is now. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The resolution carries 6-1. Thank you all for coming.
Okay.
Moving right along. Okay.
Can I chime in real quick? If anybody would like to speak with me about this topic afterward and why I made the decision and go into that, I'm happy to.
All right, before the next resolution, after consultation with the city law director, all of the council members who are employed by Miami University must recuse themselves from the discussion of the rental of the 77 parking spaces. We will step out into the hallway so as not to influence the vote in any way. I will be turning the meeting over to Vice Mayor French.
And while those members who have to recuse, I want to get into the minutes that Councilor Ornelas asked me if she is subject to a conflict of interest. And the answer, in my opinion, is no. She is retired from the university, but as a matter of courtesy, custom, and practice, her department provides space for professors emeritus. She is not currently employed with the university, does not participate in any committees, commissions, any role with the university. Her research is done independently, I suspect for the joy of doing it, and is intended to benefit humanity as a whole if it rises to that level, and we're thankful that she does it. So it is my opinion that she does not have a conflict of interest and can't sit and vote on the matter.
Okay, great. I am gonna let it is it quieting down a little bit? Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Okay, Ms. Barber, please read this resolution.
A resolution authorizing the rental of 77 city parking spaces on the east side of South Campus Avenue between East Spring Street and East Chestnut Street to Miami University as described in the parking agreement in Exhibit A.
Okay, great. Chief Jones?
Yes. So this is a resolution. We were contacted by Miami University.
We need
They,
Oh, sorry. Yep. Do I have a motion to accept this resolution?
I'll move.
Great.
Second.
Perfect. Delightful.
For the
Chief
purpose
Jones.
of discussion.
Miami University needs more parking spaces due to construction. of their facilities. They contacted us to rent some parking spaces along the east side of South Campus Avenue. They actually did not want as many as what we have here, but we, city staff reviewed this and said, if you're gonna take this, you've gotta take it all the way down. We don't want confusion on the part of Miami staff and folks coming to pay. So basically, by renting 77 parking spots, they will pay the amount in the fee ordinance. So that says salary ordinance, but it's the fee ordinance of $12 per day. For the whole semester, the total cost will be $101,640. They're gonna handle all the signage, take it down, and they'll put back up the city signage. We believe this is a good agreement. We think it'll work out. It'll generate more revenue than we would get through just metered parking. And that whole west side of the street will still be available for the public to use. And of course, this will be Miami red permitted areas is their intent. So it's pretty much, Monday through Friday during business hours, and after that, visitors can go get a visitor pass and park there. So we believe this is a good solution to help.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chief Jones. Would anybody from the public like to address this resolution? Okay, seeing none. A robust 3-member council discussion.
I have a couple of comments.
Me too.
I recall, it wasn't that long ago, that we passed a resolution requesting the university to consult with us on major projects. And I don't know for sure until you tell me, but I'll ask anyway. What facilities are being constructed that cause, I think I know the answer, that cause the parking to be taken away?
The construction of the arena and then the tear down of the buildings by Williams Hall are taking red parking lots.
That's what I thought. So here's the deal and my consternation on this. They refused to talk with us about it. They made their decision to build the arena on what is, I would think it would have to be considered the worst intersection in the state of Ohio. And they decided they would put their arena there. Wouldn't it be nice? Just right there at the worst intersection, without any discussion with the city about traffic, with any discussion at all about how we would deal with traffic on game day, any of that. And now, then they turn around and they want to take away spaces from people who park there every day to solve their problem that they created without consultation with us. I'm gonna take a little persuasion on this one.
Likewise. I am concerned about the residents who live there and the possibility of 77 parking spaces. I drove up and down that section today, and I'm looking at all those houses, the apartments, students living there, longtime Oxford residents living in that section. So have the residents in that area been notified, consulted, and/or otherwise?
No, they have not, but that's paid parking, that's metered parking. They're not allowed to, just park there without paying. So that's typically gonna be Miami staff anyway parking there and paying the meter. So I understand the comments, but from a business perspective, this makes a lot of sense. But, they're gonna pay for the parking on Saturdays and Sundays when they're not really using it.
I hear you, Chief, but I'm with Councilor Snavely on this. The fact that we have not even been consulted about this is a huge issue. And if we're talking about transparency, which is one of the biggest issues in town that I've heard complaints about, is that the lack of transparency and public process in some of these decisions that impact citizens on a daily is concerning to me at this point.
Yeah, I too am decidedly frustrated that we were not consulted when it comes to the arena project, despite explicitly having asked to be consulted with the arena project, or at least looped in if we have been consulted. It has not necessarily reached the depth of information that maybe some of us would love. That said, I do think it is an opportunity to make more off of those parking spaces than we otherwise would, which I support. And maybe it is a show of good faith and partnership that we are coming to the table and that we are asking them, or we are giving them, not giving, they're paying, that we are opening the door to opportunities for partnerships. So I'm willing to support this as a show of good faith and as Chief Jones noted, a savvy opportunity financially.
I guess, you know, the flip side is that who we would be harming by saying no to this are faculty and staff. So that weighs on me. I think the income potential is certainly appealing, not because we are out grubbing for money, which I see in Oxford talk all the time, but because we have bills to pay and things to do. So it's a very hard decision. I might vote in favor of it just because I don't want to punish the faculty and staff for the university's failure to talk with us, which is egregious, in my opinion. And I think they should be embarrassed that they did not. And I don't want to go against the chief twice in one night. Well, I like you, chief, so I
and
just
I
don't
do
like
too,
going
Chief.
against you twice.
Yeah. I mean, I understand, you know, the Vice President of Operations Physical Facilities asked me, do I need to come to this? And, you know, unlike the flock conversation, I thought this was a no-brainer. So I did see one negative online comment that was a public comment to council. And I understand maybe you don't share these same values as I do, but it really irks me because it's from a township resident who doesn't really have anything to do with it, who's bringing up these issues. I live in the city now. I used to live in the township. I pay taxes in the city. I pay taxes in the township. The township resident doesn't pay taxes in my city. I don't really get services from the township, but if you look at it, it's a very small amount, but I'm paying that tax. And so I would discard his comment. He's also a frequent commenter on other things. But you may have reached out, you may have had other comments from people I don't know. But again, like, Miami requested I think it was like 55 spots. We worked with them to say, well, you know, if we want to do this, like, we need you to take the whole street. It makes sense from a parking operation standpoint. I think you're right that it will hurt the faculty and staff who need that parking. And we can work through enforcement issues, you know, as hiccups come up with confusion. So, yeah, it's not I think it will create a little bit of work for us, but Miami is willing to do the majority of the work by taking down the signs, not asking our street department to do it. So, yeah, I understand the sentiments, but from an operations standpoint and revenue standpoint, this makes more sense to me.
If we vote for
Yeah,
this,
go ahead.
I would request the assistant city manager convey to Miami that they got it by the skin of their teeth because they refused to talk with us. And we remember that and do not appreciate it.
And I'm also concerned about the residents who live there. I mean, they may be paying the fee to park there. Guests of theirs may be paying the fee. It's going to limit the amount of
You know, it's-
activity.
I think, to be honest, I don't think it's the residents who park over there as much as it is.
True, but
There are people who are making use of the facilities,
Mhm.
like the rec
Yep,
center, and
yep.
so it is Oxford citizens
Yeah,
who are
it's-
being affected,
Yeah.
but
Chief
It's
Jones?
catch-22.
Yeah, so for the residents, just, one of the things the residents in that area did, now, most of these are all rentals now, right? These are not full-time permanent residents. There are some, but they have created residential parking areas there. So if you turn off of campus and go down, I believe Central, Rose, Ardmore, all of those areas have become residential permit parking. So as to save their spots, they pay $15, I think it is, for a permit. And then that way they have a place, and Miami staff has not taken up their spots there because it's not paid parking there. But, years ago, we had meters down Campus Avenue, we have the kiosk now. So, yes, it is kind of making it for an exclusive group in some ways. But again, you can get, if you're a visitor of the rec or other facility, speech and hearing clinic, which is right there, you can get visitor passes, you can get your parking validated through them. So I don't pretend to know all the ins and outs of Miami parking, but I think from a city parking enforcement perspective, this is okay, And of course, I didn't have anything to do with the arena project, so don't project that on me. No.
Can I ask you another question about this? $12 per day?
Yes.
That seems, if we put the neighborhood inconvenienced to this, $12 a day per parking spot seems pretty low. I mean, is that how did that number come about? Was that an average
Yeah,
of a
so
parking
no, this
meter?
is anybody can come forward and rent a parking spot, okay? Because city council passes a fee ordinance each year, and they set that rate. And $12 a day reflects, like the highest parking rate, $1 an hour, because you can park between, 9 a.m. when the meters start till 8 p.m. So that is through the fee ordinance. So we rent meters all the time to construction folks for events, and that's where that money comes from. Again, we said, if you're gonna put your signs up, you gotta rent it, they wanted to rent it Monday through Friday. Well, that would create so much confusion. No, you gotta pay for every day that you have those signs up. So again, I think we addressed, at least from our perspective, the concerns.
I get it. How about an inconvenience fee?
I think that might be a stretch. I'd also like us to vote, not that I want to curtail our robust conversation. I also know that it is 9:52 p.m.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and vote.
Okay, for the sake of the faculty and the staff.
Okay, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the
Bring our
resolution
comments
passes.
And in the last minute, too. It's the week before school start. Yeah.
I said the rest should go quickly.
All right, thank you all. We're all back. We will move on to our third resolution. Ms. Barber, you may read it whenever you're ready.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for and accept a capital improvement grant for the Community Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Project Synthetic Playfield, Oxford Community Park, in the amount of $250,000 to be administered by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources.
Motion to adopt. All right.
Second.
Motion to adopt by Counselor Snavely, second by Vice Mayor French, and we'll go to Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. This is part of the state biennium budget, state capital grant, as it's commonly known. So back in March, all agencies within Ohio House District 47 were asked to submit project ideas for capital improvement. City of Oxford submitted 4 such projects, and this particular project was selected, which is for a synthetic athletic field at the Oxford Community Park. ODNR will be administering the grant. This is to seek permission to apply for it and then accept the funds as it's a pass-through grant. Happy to answer any questions about the process.
All right, let me see if there's anyone from the public who would like to address this resolution before council. All right, I'm seeing none. Council questions or discussion? Yeah, I think we're all in favor for more park stuff.
I'm just curious. In terms of the use of the turf and the permeability of it in terms of hydrology, how does that work exactly?
Yeah, so, you would hire a design build firm that would make sure it is properly engineered and geoteched, and there's several kind of industry leaders that do a wonderful job with using sustainable substances. I've heard of some being made of crushed walnuts, in fact. The advantage to us is it's a playable surface year-round, so you don't have to necessarily cancel play after inclement weather. You can continue with tournaments and with reservations for fields, and it potentially opens up play even in the dead of winter. When you have those January days where it's 50 degrees, we have a lot of folks that would love to use our fields. So it would provide a lot of flexibility for our partners, different sports leagues we work with, opportunity for sports tourism, hosting more tournaments, that sort of thing.
Thank you.
But yeah, it would be properly engineered before we move forward.
All right, anybody else? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, that resolution is adopted. Barbie, you may read the next resolution.
A resolution accepting the recommendation of the Public Arts Commission for a mural as described in Exhibit A for installation at 909 South Main Street.
Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Franklin, second by Counselor Snavely. Ms. Green.
Yes, the Public Arts Commission is recommending a mural tied to the upcoming Amtrak station. PACO partnered with the Talawanda School District for permission to place a mural on the TSD-owned property at 909 South Main Street. We sometimes call that the Nelson Morrow Building. And we had 3 members of the Talawanda staff join us at PACO meetings for mural review and selection. Talawanda has approved the mural location at their May 14th, 2016 board meeting, and PACO issued a call for art. We had 30 responses, and during the public meeting on June 8th, PACO selected 3 finalists and provided a stipend for their formal mural proposal design. Then at the July 13th meeting, PACO selected the finalist Key Detail Mural Concept as their finalist and asked for some minor design amendments based on public comment and commission members' comments. Amtrak was also given an opportunity to review and provide a comment, and based on all of those, Key Detail made a few amendments, and at the August 10th meeting, PACO reviewed the design revisions and voted to recommend the mural by Key Detail to City Council. These artists were selected for their mural design, how it incorporates key components of the Oxford, Amtrak, and Talawanda communities, and also for their commitment to public involvement during the mural installation process. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, let me see if there's anyone from the public that would like to address this resolution before council.
It's a great time to give a positive testimony. I'm just thankful to such a great city that does so many great things, as exemplified by a lot that's going on in PACO. And the murals, the content of the murals, the deliberation of these, it's all been really great. And to have this at the Amtrak station is going to be a really great way to our city for a lot of people. And so I'm really appreciative of this and supportive of this specific thing, as well as everything that's been going on within this realm. So thanks to everybody. Steve Sullivan, 104 Marty Court.
Thanks, Steve. Council questions and discussion?
I just, I was at the meeting and the PACO made some really good suggestions for alterations, and I think they did a good job of adapting to your comments. So I think this is great, that we should do it.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I love this mural.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
The only question I had is, that building might not be going anywhere, but if somehow development would be allowed to go there, are we building it on any sort of platform that it would be transferable to a new building?
No, it will be painted onto the building.
But the building's metal. If we had to, we could.
That's true.
Hey, I'd sacrifice the mural if we could get rid of that damn building.
That was kind of my point, right?
Yeah. But it's a great mural.
All right.
I obviously support the mural.
All right, then. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. You're putting in that mural. Okay, we're going to move on to ordinances. Ms. Barber, you may read the first reading.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a utility easement agreement with Duke Energy Ohio Incorporated to facilitate the installation of Level 3 electric vehicle fast chargers at the city-owned surface parking lot at Main Street and Church Street.
All right, Mr. Dreisbach.
Good evening. Just a reminder, the city was successful in getting a $905,000 grant to buy 6 Level 3 fast chargers. 2 will be installed at the municipal building, 4 at Lot 53, the surface parking lot for the city. As part of that, we need an easement to have a pad-mounted transformer that's going to supply all the power to these EV chargers. And so that's what we're asking for. Tonight is just the easement. The pad will be set on the southeast corner of the lot, and we will bore from there to the island to power the 4 EV chargers. Because it's a permanent land easement, we need an ordinance from you. So tonight was first reading for that. Be glad to answer any questions.
All right, let me see if there's anyone from the public that would like to address this ordinance before council. All right, not seeing anybody. Council questions and discussion?
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's my only comment. Just awesome.
Second his comment.
All right, this is the first reading, so we will see this again in September. And we'll move on when you read the second one, whenever you're ready.
An ordinance accepting the recommendation of the Planning Commission to repeal and replace zoning code section 114310, Uptown District, to allow for retail services up to 20,000 square feet as a permitted use.
All right, Mr. Perry.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is a text amendment that was inspired by the former Follett's Co-op bookstore. There's actually a couple other lots in the Uptown District that would benefit from this. There are currently square footage limits on retail development. So if you could imagine a building being built and it would have to be divided up into individual retail spaces. And if they would exceed 10,000 square feet, a conditional use permit would be required from the Planning Commission first. And so in order to facilitate the potential for a large retail user, we are recommending this amendment so that potentially a single tenant could occupy a space, which would increase the possibility for the tenant to be identified and the land to not sit vacant for a long time period. We don't know if that would happen with the former Follett site, which has an HAPC approval for a new development, but we felt like in Planning Commission, this was actually in response to Economic Development Specialist Seth Kruppenbaker's request. We believe that would help increase the potential for a new development to not sit vacant. This is the recommendation. It would exclude restaurants and bars from being administratively approved over that threshold. They would still have to go through a conditional use permit exceeding the 10,000 square feet.
All right, is there anyone from the public that would like to address this ordinance before council? All right, seeing none. Council questions, discussion? Make sense? Once again, this is a first reading, so we will see this again in September. All right. Move on to second readings. Ms. Barber, you may read the first, second reading.
An ordinance accepting the annexation petition from Ambassadors Point Community Church West Incorporated for 6.753 acres of land, more or less in the township of Oxford, Butler County, Ohio, and accepting said territory to be annexed.
Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor French, second by Councilor Snavely. Ms. Green?
No significant changes, but we did bring a map for you at the request from the last meeting. So this is the parcel that we would be annexing into the city of Oxford behind the Ambassador's Point Community Church.
And what was changed from last time?
No, no changes,
Oh,
sorry.
no change.
Just a map showing you what we're
Yeah.
talking about. Sorry, miss.
Let me see if there's anyone from the public who would like to address this ordinance before council. All right, seeing none. Council questions or any discussion? All right. Ms. Barber, you may call the roll.
Mr. Bracken?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. French?
Yes.
Ms. Ornelas?
Yes.
Mr. Snavely?
Yes.
Mr. Vinch?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Yes. That is adopted. Okay, we will move on to the second reading.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 3844, supplemental budget ordinance number 5, to make supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 2026.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor French, second by Councilor Snavely, and we'll go to Ms. Ridenhour.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and councilors. I have one change from the first reading, and that was to add 10,000 in revenue for grants from the Butler County Metro Parks and the Oxford Community Foundation to pay for the netting on the back of the field of the ball field, the which sounds expensive, but that's how much they cost.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address this ordinance before council? All right, seeing none, any questions or council discussion? All right, I'm seeing none. Please call the roll.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. French?
Yes.
Ms. Ornelas?
Yes.
Mr. Snavely?
Yes.
Mr. Vinch?
Yes.
Mr. Bracken?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Yes, that ordinance is adopted. All right, we will move on to announcements and communications, and I will start with Assistant City Manager Green.
It's late. Good night. Have a good evening.
Mr. Dreisbach? Chief Jones? Right now? Okay, okay. Chief Deathridge? All right. Mr. Smith?
First day of school at Talawanda tomorrow, so I have a busy house.
Mr. Perry? Ms. Barber?
Nothing, thank you.
You're fortunate to live in a community where the citizens are respectful in their comments and the council is so thoughtful. You're blessed.
Mr. Snavely?
Yes, I just want to commend Kiwanis and other organizations who participated in the Back to School Bash and the cooperation of the city. Very much appreciated in the Aquatic Center, and everything went really well despite the weather. They kind of cut it short, but they served over 700 students getting ready to go back to school. And they gave haircuts, and they gave backpacks full of school supplies, and I just think it's a great event every year, and so kudos to Kiwanis and the other organizations that assisted.
Nothing for me.
Don't forget our last Red Brick Friday is the 28th.
I had a great time at the Oxford Beekeeper Association meeting on Tuesday. It was great to be in a space. I don't think I'm ever going to raise bees, but I was curious about it. It was great to be in a space with people who clearly have different political views, but all can agree on bees, and apparently flock a little bit too. So thank you.
Nothing for me today.
And nothing for me.
I'm just going to say thanks again to the service department that hauled some gravel out to the dog park on Bottom Road and filled in all the potholes. I got many thanks for that. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
they should be told that it was just by the skin of their teeth that they got it because they refused to talk with us and consult with us as they built their project on the intersection.
What's that?
Check out Lioness.
Oh, my God. You'll love
So we
it.
approve?
Because
Did you ever watch
people
Terminal?
would be affected, faculty and staff.
Chris Pratt.
And we said no.
You like those types of shows?
Yeah, but my name.
You'll like mine. It's very well done. Take care.
Not knowing what's happening.
Yeah.
Because we just pulled up the streaming. Oh, we had a little bent about it.
Well,
Yes, yes, yes. I'm curious. Can you tell me? Oh, my goodness, okay. Yeah.